is a bike that isn't on my entry list. It's number 313, put up on the screen pretty soon. Should come the name of the rider. Probably a late entry, Simon Wilson on a 350 Yamaha. And he belongs to, if you like, the road bike or the circuit bike fraternity rather than the motocross. Yamaha RD 350. Bikes off the line are pretty much on a par with cars. 2.56 for Simon. And the other argument, as you see on some hills, is whether to put your foot down around the bends or keep them on the pegs. It kind of gives, I suppose, gives you a bit of a confidence boost to put a foot down on the deck. Anyway, Simon safely around Ettores and Pardon. Plenty of grip today, it's bone dry. Much to the dismay of a lot of our farmers. We haven't had rain in this country for well over a month. It's been the driest, pretty much the driest April on record. Simon is in the semicircle and records a 56.19. Here's Harvey Mills in a Gas 300. He's of the long travel fraternity. And you'll see a number of these people with long travel suspension click. They press the front suspension down on the start line and click it so that it doesn't spring back up again excuse me, until the bike is underway, and it means that they have the, if you like, the nose down for the start and avoids the risk of doing a wheelie and going over backwards. Harvey on the gas. Gasses his way through Pardon. He's a member of the leg down fraternity. Certainly around the Pardon hairpin. Off the line goes Jamie Mitchell, 6th in the championship when they last ran it in 2019, which is pretty good because Jamie is on a 500cc BRC. Meanwhile, we've got a time for Mick Lovelock of 56.93. Record in the 350s is 46.83. Record for the 500s, well, for the 350s to 500 is 45.29, and for the 500s 45.05. So of course some way off that in the season opener. This is number 501, that's Andy Eames on the Honda Mestizo. 400cc Honda engine. He heads into the S's. He was fairly carefully round Orchard at 41 miles an hour under the bridge. Again, foot down. A little bit of a sort of tentative wheelie out of Ettores. Safely round Pardon. And off the line goes John Bottomley in this 1939 Velocette. He says the bike is marginally older than the rider. Simon Hocking's time, clicking up, 52.49, and he was on the Husqvarna Swedish bike. Velocette's well on its way. Riding position, of course, the pre-war bike. Does it have rear suspension, Velocette? Probably. He's followed by Mark Short on another KTM, the Austrian KTM. For some reason it's not orange painted. Has to lift off a bit round Pardon. Danger of running out of road. John Bottomley on the Velocette still running, 67.96. And it looks as if Mark's going pretty quickly on the KTM 500. And we scroll back to Steve Atkins on a Greaves 403. And Mark Short was quick, 52.13. Here's the Greaves in the hands of Steve Atkins. Only 403cc. We're in the class up to 500, so giving away 100 cubic centimeters, but it doesn't seem to hold him back. Steve has finished with a 59.85. He was followed by Patrick Dolan on a 495cc Honda, heading towards the finish, and also off the line is Kerry Hall on a KTM 450. So we've got three bikes on the hill at the same time. They come thick and fast. I don't mean the riders. 50.83, that's I think our quickest time so far among the bikes. That's Patrick Dolan, 50.83. Terry Hall into the S's and out again. And Doug Parnell follows on a road-based Yamaha 450. Almost gets it on the grass on the entry to Ed Torres. Terry Hall on the KTM 55.57 on the line. George Hodges we'll see in a few minutes. It's interesting, isn't it, that in the 500cc class, a great majority of the bikes are 400 to 450cc. rather than taking advantage of the full capacity of the class. Doug Parnell nearly has finished. His George Hodges, who is quick, 67 through the speed trap. He's a foot out rather than a foot down, Merchant, so the foot is out, and that probably gives him a bit more balance. Oh wow, a bit of a wheelie and a wobble coming out of Pard for George. He's followed by Julian Kendall on a 400cc Suzuki. Last runner, I think, in the up to 500s. Which brings us to winner of the championship last year, Tom Short. We'll see in a second on the KTM. Here he goes. KTM with a 653cc engine. Tom Short. Now the record in this class, the 750cc class, is 45.05. But Tom won the championship, so he obviously is a quick guy. In the meantime, Julian Kendall heads for the finish on his Suzuki. Tom Short into the S's. Neil Tamlin, our second runner, with a 600cc Yamaha. Julian Kendall 54.15. Tom Short. Wow, this is a quick run. 46.47 is only a second and a bit outside the record, so these guys will have another run this afternoon. They're not here tomorrow. Neil Tamlin, 600cc Yamaha, into the S's. He's followed by Michael Fiddler on a 650cc Suzuki. Immaculate bike of Michael Fiddler. Neil Tamlin heads for the finish, 57.66. Richard Bowker is on a 530cc TM SMR. I'm afraid I can't give you much detail on that bike. I'll try and find out a bit more as we go along. long travel suspension, modified motocross bike. Imagine riding one of these on the Dakar through all the dunes in Saudi Arabia. Doesn't bear thinking about. Tony Whittle is on a Ducati. Lovely big Duke with its desmodromic valve gear. What does that mean? It means it doesn't have valve springs. It has mechanical closing of the valves. And Ducati have really made Desmo technology work well. Michael Fiddler 57.83, Richard Bowker 52.56, Tommy Hodges off the line in 2.23. That's a quick getaway, and 67 under the bridge. In the meantime, we're up in the S's with Tony Whittle on the Duke. But he's taking it a bit easy. First run. Massive acceleration. Glyn Poole, here's our triple record holder, but Glyn on this big 890cc KTM. Very different from the bikes he's used to, and I think he's had this bike for 3 days or so. It is road registered, as you can see, and it's road legal on road tyres. I guess Glyn would be happy on his first outing in this bike to get under the 52nd mark. Alan Jolly, another highly experienced competitor in this competition, on a big KTM 1190. That's almost the biggest engine we've got among the bikes, although we've got James Goodman coming later on a 1200cc Harley. Glyn, yeah, 48.96, that's pretty good. What can Alan Jolly do on the KTM with a big 1190cc engine? Matthew Mogridge, another big engine, has got a Suzuki 1000 with 1080cc, 57 round under the bridge, and a nice late apex at Ed Torres. Alan Jolly heads for the 52nd mark. Pretty good, 51.7. Matthew Mogridge in the S's and Alan Jolly 51.7. We've seen that. Matthew heads to the semicircle. Off the line went Dave Norris. Will pick him up soon on the 1050cc Triumph. In the meantime, Matthew heads for the finish, 51.16. Here's the Triumph 1050. I think it's a triple. It's rather a high-pitched exhaust note. Triumph's such a success since the company was bought, and a brilliant factory, ultra-modern factory up in the Midlands. I've been around the factory. It's fascinating to watch these bikes being built. So Dave finishes with a 53.82. Lynn Vincent on a big KTM again, rather similar to the bike that Glyn Poole is riding. 1195 KTM. KTM built in Austria, of course. They did build a car, didn't they? A sort of track car, which was either called an Expo or a Crossbow. So Len Vincent 54.03. Dave Pete into the S's on his KTM. Andy Greenhouse comes to the line on a 1 litre Suzuki. We'll see in a second. Using all the road out of the S's is Dave. This will be in the low 50s, I guess. 52.22. James Godman has left the line. James, last runner, he's on the big 1200cc Harley. We'll see him. Here he is into Ed Torres. Does it have a belt drive or a chain drive? Harleys, road Harleys have a belt drive, don't they? Toothed belt. Touch of the foot downs for James. In the meantime, Andy Greenhouse 56.77, and we've got our one and only trike in the hands of Simon and Jane Foster. Here they are. It's a Honda F2 with a 600cc engine. Jane, athletic, doing her acrobatics to keep the thing on 3 wheels as far as she can. James has finished on the Harley with a time of 57.53. We might have a bit of a pause after Simon and Jane. No, we don't. We're going straight on to our next 4-wheel class. But they finish with a remember, this isn't practice. This is their round 1 of their championship. And it's kicked off by Simon Wilson on the 350 Yamaha. Simon did a 56.8 first run. Neatly rounded Tories. Record in this class is a 46.83. It's surprising, irrespective of capacity, how similar all the records are. He's followed by Harvey Mills on the Gas 300. There he is going under the bridge as we caught a glimpse of Simon Wilson heading through the S's. Harvey goes 53 miles an hour under the bridge. Simon finishes with a 55.86. Bit quicker than his first run. Harvey Mills did a 56.75 first time up. And he's followed off the line by Mick Lovelock on the KTM. But in the meantime, we focus on Harvey heading towards semicircle on the Gas, of which I know less than nothing, I'm afraid. But he finishes with a 56.42. Mick Lovelock follows him on the KTM. He's down from Burton-on-Trent. A number of these bike competitors come from the West Country, but in this case Mick is from Burton-on-Trent, home of beer. He did a 57.06. All 3 runners in this first class were very similar timed, with Harvey Mills just the quickest. But at the moment it's Simon Wilson leading the way. Mick Lovelock finishes with a 56.54. Andy Eames, 39 under the bridge, taking it fairly gently. He's on the Honda Maestro with 400cc, well, 398. Honda, I guess a twin, must be a twin, mustn't it? Here's the Husqvarna of Simon Hocking, famous Swedish manufacturer, particularly of sprint and motocross bikes. Here's the Husqvarna into and through the S's. 67.12 for the Andy Eames Honda Mestizo. And here's our oldest bike, the 1939 Velocet, in the hands of John Bottomley. Ooh, John has a bit of a mischief at Pardon. Thought he'd lost the engine, but it came back to life. Must have cost him 2 or 3 seconds, so he'll be cursing internally, but he's still going fine. Simon Hocking on the Husqvarna 51.62. Jamie Mitchell. Jamie did a 48.39. That's on the BRC. We missed that, but that's a brilliant run. Jamie's 48.39. Yeah, poor John Bottomley, 71.77. Cost him a lot of time. He's followed by Mark Short, who's rounds semicircle. He's going quickly. Can this be? No, it can't be in the 50s. 51.1. Steve Atkins on the Greaves. Here he is rounding Pardon. I once did a mixed test day at Brands Hatch. I was in a Formula Junior Lotus and the bikes were on the track at the same time. It's really interesting how they went away down the straight. They were miles quicker in a straight line, and I caught them up on all the corners, so our overall lap time wasn't so different. But of course I had the benefit of 4 tyres on the road and they only had 2. Patrick Dolan's finished with a very good time of 50.29. Here's Terry Hall into and through the S's on his 450 KTM. Meanwhile, Doug Parnell, well-known name in this championship, on a lovely Yamaha ZRF. Doug Parnell did a 56.7 last time up. Terry Hall has finished on his KTM with a time of 54.71. Here's George Hodges, 66 through the trap. Bit of a confidence boot sticking out. Little wheelie, just showing the amount of acceleration you can get out of the slow corners. Quickly round Pardon. And Doug Parnell records a 56.6. So our quickest bike, I think, still is Jamie Mitchell with his 48.39. Here's Julian Kendall, RM Suzuki. George, what can George do? A 49.18, so another one in the 40s. Good run. Michael Fiddler rounding Ed Torres. Julian Kendall up near the top in the low 50s. Mike does a wide entry into Pardon, so nice line through Pardon. Julian Kendall did a 54.17. Here's Neil Tamlin on the 600 Yamaha. Now, something's gone wrong, or has he been red flagged? No, something's gone wrong. So he's parking it. But he will probably be guided by our marshal to wheel it back to the paddock. That's a shame. So no damage, of course, but maybe mechanical problems. Michael Fiddler, who went up before Neil, recorded a time of 57.13 on the 650 Suzuki. Neil desperately trying to kick it to life. Brilliant coverage, impeccable, knowledgeable car. Ooh, hang on, you haven't noticed all the mistakes. Watching from southwest France. Thanks, Dave. Steve Murgatroyd just found this. Thumbs up. Great coverage, guys. Wish we were there. Well, I think this will probably be the last meeting at Prescott without spectators. I hope I'm right, because we've got some great meetings coming up throughout this season, including one that celebrates the Italian motor industry. So lots to look forward to at Prescott. And remember, we have the Prescott Driving School. Thanks, Rich. Here's our event calendar for 2021. So lots of hill climbs, lots of Porsche spelt wrong, at Prescott on the 19th of June. We've got an Italian day on Sunday the 30th of May. All sorts of things coming. The big meeting, or one of the big meetings of the year, is the Vintage Sports Car Club, when the vintage guys come here. In the meantime, Richard Barker takes off on the big TM. 2.15 is a brilliant start, and 60 under the bridge is pretty good. So Richard on his own on the hill. We'll find out, I hope, what happened to Neil. But it's a shame when a competitor doesn't get his full complement of 4 runs. Remember, they had 2 practice runs this morning, which were not screened. On the line is number 1, Tom Short. Meanwhile, just taking off the line is Tony Whittle. Meanwhile, Richard Barker. This will be quite a quick run. 51.51, not bad at all for Richard. Tom Short's taken off in 2.14 off the line, but in the meantime, here's Tom into Ed Torres. Tony Whittle is just rounding pardon in front of Tom. He's on the Ducati, the 750 Ducati. Tom's going, well, Tom's number 1, so he won the championship last year, and he's going very quickly. 69 under bridge. Tony is heading for the finish, and Tom will not be far behind him. 62.68 for Tony Whittle on the Duke. Tom Short, 45.94. Fantastic. Well done. That's brilliant. 45.94 for Tom. Now, is that a record? No, it's not quite, but not far away. Here's our record holder. In fact, our triple record holder, Glyn Poole. We'll see him in a second, but meanwhile, Tommy Hodges. Here's Glyn on the new to him KTM Fatry 890. He's only had it for 3 days, I think. So he's moved up into the big class, holds the record in 3 classes here, and was 3rd in the championship, as you can see, last year. Tommy Hodges, 48.39 is pretty good, but Tom Short way ahead with a 45.94. Glyn is nearly there. In the meantime, Alan Jolly on the big KTM, rounding in Torres. 48.91, 48.91 for Glyn Poole. He'll soon whittle that down into the 45s, I'm sure. Now, can Alan Jolly do anything about 45.94 of Tom Short? I think not. He's going well, but my goodness, that was a quick run of Tom's. No, he's heading round semicircle. It'll be 50.92, not bad at all. On his way, Matthew Margaridge on the big Suzuki, rounds a Torres. Lovely twin pipes sticking out at the back. Pretty much a road racing bike rather than a sprint bike. Here's this is Dave Morris on the 1050 Triumph. Matthews finished with a 50.62. He'll be wishing he was in the 49s, but it's still a respectable time. Dave Norris on the Triumph Triple. Making a lovely noise, producing lots of power. Then heavy braking into the first S, out of the S's, up to semicircle. It'll be in the low 50s, I guess. Dave Peat in the KTM heads into a Taurus 53.68 for Len Vincent on the 1200 KTM. Here's Dave Peat on his KTM. Andy Greenhouse takes off. We'll see in a second from the line. Dave Peat, good run. Can he make it under 50? No. 51.66. Here's Andy Greenhouse on the 1 litre Suzuki. Road registered. Fun to drive on the road, I guess. On a day like this, certainly. And off the line goes the Harley, which I think I can confirm is chain drive rather than belt drive. Andy Greenhouse, 1 litre Suzuki in the 50s, 54.29. So our last two-wheel bike, James Godman on the 1200 Harley, big twin of course. Different philosophy, the American bikes to the European and the Japanese, because they have long distances to ride and they major on cruising comfort. Simon and Jane on the F2 Honda trike on their way. Jane Foster leaps to apply what little weight she has to where it can do the most good, hanging on tight. James Godman's time on the Harley 56.44. Jane not all that far from the Armco on the inside of the bend. She's got more courage than I have, that's for sure. And they head for the finish to record a 51.74. The record for trikes is 48. They qualified with a time of 51.3. And here they come up to the line. They don't have a timing strut, which is interesting. So instead, that portable strut with the horizontal rod is at the height of the beam, so that's where they line up. bright red, bright orange coloured. You'd think it was a KTM, but it's not. It's a Honda F2. It's an F2 with a Honda engine. Hang on tight, Jane. She does. And a nice start in 2.69. 59 under the bridge. Jane jumps over from the left-hand side to the right-hand side, leans as far out to the right as she can, and then you'll see her grabbing the grab handle and sticking as much of herself as she can right over to the left. Keep away from the Armco, Simon. They qualified with a 51.3. Hugging the apex at semicircle. 51.9. Not quite as quick as their qualifying run, but a good run anyway. They're followed by Mark Short. And Mark qualified with a 51.1. He's on the KTM with a long travel suspension. Good start, 2.2. That's really good. Round Orchard at 62. Tentative boot down just to, and again it always does that little wheelie hop, accelerating out of Ettores. His qualifying time was a 51.1. Looks as if he's a little bit down at the midway marker, but he's up again at the S's. So can he get in the 50s? I bet he would like to. He doesn't quite. 51.02. 51.02 for Mark. Next up, Alan Jolly. Big bike. This is the 1200cc KTM. Space frame, as it were. Again, long travel suspension. I don't think he clicks the front suspension right down. You can do that. We'll watch and see how many people do that. Alan was in the 50s with a 50.92 first run. Nice boom from the big KTM engine. Really quick start. 2.14. 62. Rounds Orchard hugging the inside verge. Correct. Oh, I wasn't going to say that, was I, anymore? The late entry into Ettores. And another little hop. Mini wheelie as the power goes down out of Ettores. Beautifully round Pardon. Alan would be very pleased to have another run in the 50s. .98 at the split at the S's. 51.82. Interesting. Times are a bit slower than in their first two competitive runs. Matthew Mogridge on the line. And Matthew, of course, is in the big Suzuki 1080cc Suzuki. I think he did click the front suspension down, but a very good 64 feet. Not quite so quick round Orchard. Gets a little wiggle on from a locked rear brake on the way into Ettores, which will annoy him. That probably cost him maybe a couple of tenths, maybe slightly more. But it's very difficult to get your braking right. You don't want too much front brake, otherwise the thing plows straight on. Fierce acceleration up to semicircle. We'll get a head-on view in just a second. Here it is. Qualified with a 50.62. No, that cost him more than he wanted at Ettores. He won't be happy with that. 53.29. Now, who's next? It's Patrick Dolan. And Patrick is on the Honda CR 500cc Honda. But he's quick round Orchard 66. Gets his braking right for Ettores. Keeps the front wheel pretty much on the ground. Accelerating towards Pardon. It's a fairly wide entry into Pardon and a wide exit to keep the speed up, keep the momentum up. Into Tom Rote corner. We always call it the S's, but actually officially it's named after the famous engineer Tom Rote. Patrick Dolan on the way to the finish. He qualified with a 50.29, not quite as quick, but 50.43 puts him top of the leaderboard at the moment. George Hodges, Team GV CRF. Rapidly off the line, 2.07. That's the quickest 64 feet we've had in this runoff. Now Patrick qualified, George, I beg his pardon, qualified in the 40s with a 49.18. So this is a quick bike and rider combination. Long travel front suspension, really extends the forks on the way on acceleration. So his time is up, he's 0.71 up on the Patrick Dolan time so far. Very quickly round S's, fierce acceleration. Let's see the head-on view at semicircle. It's good, it's a 48.55. Excellent for George. Pops him into first place, and on the line we've got the KTM. We've got Glyn Poole on the KTM. Triple record holder, rapid bike, rapid driver, bit of a wheelie. What can Glyn do? Well, 900ths slower off the line, won't make much of a difference. Quickly make up the time, apply the power, and then late braking for Pardon. Bike is road registered, be fun on the road. It isn't a headlight, it was the sun shining, reflecting off the front number. He's slightly down at the S's, he's slightly down at semi. Can he make it up on the run to the finish? Not quite, 48.98. Puts Glyn in second place. Jamie Mitchell comes next. Jamie on the little 500 BRC, qualified with a 48.39. So that would, if he repeats that, it'll put him at the top of the field. And he's going for it. 68 round Ettores. Long travel suspension, didn't lift the front wheel, hugs the inside at Pardon. He's half a second up at the midway mark. He's more than half a second up at the S's. This will be a quick run. Remember, he's chasing 48.55. Can he do it? Last corner and up to the finish. Yes, 48.18. Jamie pops his bike into top place with a 48.18. Bit quicker than his quickest qualifying run. Now, Tommy Hodges qualified with a 48.39. He's got 48.18 to beat. Well, he's quickest off the line so far. And he again is doing 68 round Orchard, gets his braking, yeah, last second braking, gets it right. Wheelie down the little slope and late braking into Entoris, hugs the inside curve at Entoris. He's up by 3/10. Down, not down, but his lead has dropped to 0.23, but up again in the S's. This should pop Tommy at the top of the tree. Let's see, 48.18, 47.42, excellent. So Tommy is definitely on the podium with a 47.42. What can our quickest runner do? Tom qualified with a 45.94. So if he repeats something like that, he's way in front. He carries the number one, so he won the championship last year. Can he beat 68 round Orchard? 73! Wow. This is quick. Oh, hangs! No, no, no! That's late braking, too late braking, into the kitty litter. No harm done, but cross. Dropped it slightly, but I think both rider and bike are okay. Lifted out of the gravel. Yeah, he's just angry with himself. Bad luck, Tom. Gilles Villeneuve said, if you ain't crashing, you ain't trying. So it's how you find the limit. Yeah, ambulance arrives and isn't needed, I don't think. I think Tom's okay. Might be swearing a bit. So here's our runoff, won by Tommy Hodges with a time of 47.42. Second, Jamie Mitchell, 48.18. Third, George Hodges, 48.55. Fourth, Glyn Poole, 49.98.